Hi everyone. Today we're going to work on factoring polynomials still, but this time we're going to have more of a focus on the other type of trinomials, where if you look here, a is not equal to 1, and we can't take it out with a greatest common factor. So we still want to look for a greatest common factor, but then if there's a number left in front of the x squared, we want to do, well, there are actually a couple of options we have. One is sort of factoring by grouping, and the other is to do what we call slide and divide. So I'm going to show you slide and divide today. Next time we're going to learn, or 2 times from now, we're going to learn about factoring by grouping. And so I'll show you how both methods can be effective. And there's a guess and check method too. If you get really stuck with this, you can always try and use that. But we're going to focus on slide and divide today, which I think is the easiest. So in order to do that, before we fill in this example here, I'm going to do a simpler example of slide and divide. And remember our steps. First, we always look for a greatest common factor. So I always want to do that before I try one of these other methods, okay? So here, let's see, we have 6x squared plus 37x plus 6. Now, I want to look for a greatest common factor, so I have to think, okay, can anything divide out of 6, 37, and well, the last number is 6 again, so we don't have to write that twice. The only thing I can think of is 1. So, no greatest common factor, but I still have this number in front of x squared, which is different from what we did previously. So in that case, I'm going to do what we call slide and divide. So the first part is the sliding. We're going to take this a value, I'm talking about that from ax squared plus bx plus c, standard form of our quadratic. I'm going to slide it down to the c value. So that's my first step there, is to slide a to c. And the sliding action is multiplication, right? So we're literally picking up this 6 and we're moving it to the end to the other 6. And so I'm left with just an x squared in the beginning, still a plus 37x in the middle, but now I have 6 times 6, so plus 36 on the end. Now it's the same kind of factoring you guys did last time because we don't have a number in front of x squared. So I need to find the product of 36, so 2 things that multiply up to 36 that add to 37. Or essentially, we're finding what multiplies to 6 times 6 that's going to add to 37. Well, I know we have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and obviously 6 and 6 because that's what we multiplied to get to it. The only set that I see that adds to 37 is this 1 and 36, right? So those are my 2 magic numbers. So my factors become x plus 1, x plus 36. Again, same thing you guys did in the last assignment. And then it's called slide and divide, remember. So because we slid the a to the c, now we have to divide. So step 2 is divide everything by a. All right, we have to account for the fact that we multiplied this a value in by dividing it back out. And then let's look what happens. Well, in the second factor, 36 divided by 6, that is a number that comes out even. It's going to be x plus 6, right? But 1 divided by 6, that doesn't happen. That doesn't go in evenly. So what I'm going to do here is move the 6 in the beginning. So I get 6x plus 1. And the reason that we need this 6x in the beginning, right? Let me get a bigger 6x in the beginning here. Is because 6x times x, we have to get 6x squared as our first term. And so I need something, either it could have been 3x and a 2x, or it would have had to been 6x and x. The one that ended up working is 6x and x, so we can avoid having to do some guessing and checking by using the slide and divide, okay? So my factors here are 6x plus 1 and x plus 6. And remember how you check and see if they're correct? You could FOIL it or double distribute back together and see if you end up with what you started with, okay? So that is the slide and divide method. So let's try another one before we go up and do the example in your notes there. So here, 6n squared plus 5x minus 6. I have a lot of 6's in these examples. Again, look for a greatest common factor. Can you divide anything out of 6 and 5? Nothing except for 1, so we can't take anything out. Then we're going to slide A down to C. And again, sliding is multiplication, so it becomes n squared plus 5n minus 36. And again, that sliding is just an intermediate step, right? This is sort of like a placeholder so that I can factor it, because we don't get our real final answer until we go back and divide. Well, let's look at all the things that multiply to negative 36. We just had a list of things that multiply to 36. And they have to add to 5. All right, we had 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. If it has to multiply to negative 36, then I know one of these numbers has to be negative, right? So it could be negative 1, positive 36, that gives me 35. Or if I switch the negative, I get negative 35. Negative 2 and 18 gives me 16. If I switch the negative, I get negative 16. Those aren't working. Negative 3 and 12 is 9. Or if I switch the negative, I get negative 9. Negative 4 and 9 gives me 5. Ooh, that's what I want. So those are the two numbers I will use in my factors. Remember, it doesn't matter which one comes first because multiplication is commutative. So negative 4 or positive 9 could go in either factor. And then because we slid this 6 down to the end, we have to remember to divide by it at the end, okay? So that was step 1 with sliding. Here we're doing the dividing. Well, this one's a little bit different than what we just looked at, right? So this time I have 4 divided by 6. Well, that doesn't go in evenly, but I know that I can reduce that fraction. So I'm going to reduce it by 2. So I get n minus 2/3. Excuse me. And then 9 over 6, again, those don't divide evenly. Avoid making them a decimal, because that's really just going to make your factors not exact anymore. Just reduce. So the second one would reduce. I can take a 3 out of both. Here I took a 2 out. So I would get 3 over 2, right? Those values don't go in evenly, so the final answer is just taking that denominator and moving it in front of the variable. So I would get 3n minus 2 and 2n plus 3, okay? So that would be my final answer. All right, one more and then we'll do the one in your notes to sort of solidify this. So in this example here, 16b squared plus 60b plus, minus 100, the first thing that I want to do is always, always, always look for a greatest common factor. So 16, 60, and 100. If you think about that, I know that I can divide each of these by 4. So that's what I'm going to do first. 4 goes in the front, and then I'm left with 4b squared plus 15b minus 25. All right. Now from here, 4 is still left in front of b squared, so I still need to do the slide and divide. So I'm going to slide 4 to the 25, and I get b squared plus 15b minus 100. Remember that sliding is multiplication. And the 4 that we took out in the beginning is still part of my answer. So still there. So now I'm looking at, let's get rid of that. Now I'm looking at what two numbers multiply to 100 and add to 15. So let's think about what are the factors of 100. 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 4 and 25, 5 and 20, 10 and 10. Now they're multiplying to negative 100, and they have to add to positive 15. So if I look at any of these sets of numbers down here, the only one that seems to have a difference of 15 would be 5 and 20. And if I want positive 15, then I have to make 5 negative, right? So my factors, we'll get all kinds of colors going here, are going to be b minus 5 and b plus 20. Again, the 4 just keeps getting brought down. And then because I slid a to the end in the beginning, now I'm dividing it back out. So I end up with, well, 4 doesn't go into 5 evenly, so it's 4b minus 5. But 4 does go into 20, so that just becomes b plus 5, because 20 divided by 4 is 5. And again, bring down the 4 from your original answer. So this is combining a lot of different techniques that we've looked at, but it's another way to factor. All right, if you're still with me, let's go and fill in the one in your notes here, and then you can try some practice. So 30x squared minus 27x plus 6. Again, what we need to remember is always look for a greatest common factor. So I'm going to try to look for a greatest common factor, and I think it's 3. Oops. So I'm going to divide everything by 3 to start. So I end up with the 3 in the front, and then 10x squared minus 9x plus 2. Okay, so here I'm going to multiply, I'm going to slide 10 to the end, because 10 is the number in front of x squared. So I get x squared minus 9x plus 20. Again, 3 still out front. Now I have to think about, all right, what multiplies to 20 that can add to negative 9? Well, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, I think 4 and 5 are the two that are going to work for us. If I make both of them negative, they'll multiply to give me positive 20 and add to give me negative 9. So my factors are x minus 4 and x minus 5. Again, the 3 just stays out front the whole time because it's part of my original answer. And because I slid 10 to the end, that's the number I'm dividing by to even it back out. Well, 4 over 10, they don't divide evenly, but I can reduce it to 2 over 5. 5 over 10, I can reduce it to 1/2. And my final answer would be 5x minus 2 and 2x minus 1. All right. Double check that these make sense when you're done, okay? So when I finally look at this, I know the first number was supposed to be 30. So if I take 3 times 5 times 2, we have to make sure that would actually give me 30 in the beginning. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. 15 times 2 is 30. Yeah, that works out. And then to get 6 at the end, it'd be 1 times 2 times 3. Well, 1 times 2 is 2, times 3 is 6. So this is going to work out for us, okay? So that's your slide and divide. Go ahead and try some practice. Remember, you get 1 point for trying practice in quarter 4, and then you're going to get most of your grade from trying the short quiz that follows. Please ask me if you need help, Zoom me, whatever you need.